This is The Yay. I'm Reg Clay.
And Norman G.
This is The Yay, where we talk about life in the theater and the theater of life.
Yay!
As I always say, we want to thank Central Works for sponsoring The Yay. Central Works, a new play theater. They're hosted by Gary Graves and Jan Schleifler. Central Works, reinventing theater one play at a time. And we want to welcome our guest, Jon Tracy, the artistic facilitator of Theater First. Jon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. The artistic facilitator, I usually hear artistic director or, something more. How is a facilitator different from a director?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's always great to have a chance to talk about things like that. I think one of the reasons we at Theater First decided to rename the title was to get a little bit closer to what we felt the job should entail, but also to sort of invoke this conversation with folks when we can. And we at Theater First, when I came in 5 years ago, started trying to just really unpack one thing at a time. And it wasn't like unpack this and then unpack this. It was unpack this, see what's inside it. Ooh, let's unpack a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. And in just some of the initial investigations, the idea of a facilitator seemed to be just a purposeful statement that began a conversation with the artist that would come into the room. That said, the statement being, that artist doesn't work for me, I work for that artist. Facilitate their art, and that neither one of us truly worked for each other. We worked for a story. But it began a different conversation, a different collaboration between artists. And like a lot of the things that we've done at Theater First, it's a strong statement, but then and the statement by itself means nothing, of course, right? It's
right.
Words, but it is something that an artist who may or may not have had a history with theater companies that have created spaces that are less than ideal. It gives the artist something to hold on to, something to go to say, well, Jon, you say you're the facilitator. I don't feel like you're facilitating in this moment. So I gave language around something that could be tested. So all of the statements we've made are statements that we hope folks will go like, okay, but now let's test them out. Let's prove them out. But it's the beginning of a promise.
Yeah, more than anything, it seems like you made yourself a verb.
Yeah, but I hope so.
Yeah, it sounds like, I work in the law environment, and when I hear facilitator, I don't hear a judge. I hear an individual who just wants to have other parties sort of speak out things, and the facilitator is sort of like a referee to sort of to make sure that both sides are heard, or make sure that all thoughts are flushed out. And in an arts environment, that's exactly what we need. We've heard a lot of criticism about directors and, well, here, this is my vision and I'm going to impose my vision and my scope and, my thoughts on what this company should be and what our season is going to be. And it sounds like you are really just saying, hey, I'm just opening up an environment, a playing field for everyone to come in and share their ideas.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that is the desire, that is the intent, but we also know that we all suffer from a traditional structure that can say those things, but not necessarily do we always all come through on them. So, so to dig into that a little bit would be to say that in a moment when we're in this fantastically prolonged moment of progress, and I mean that by the fact that we've had these revolutionary moments throughout not only theater history but just world history. But they
Jon, your mic. You're losing
How am I
audio.
There
doing
we
now?
are.
How am I doing now?
No, you're
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah.
Um, those that have been historically had the privilege, been in charge, have been often been able to just like wait out those revolutions. It's part of the privilege card that comes
Right.
with my, in my identity. I have to like hold and name my white card,
Right.
my male identifying card, my
Yep.
my straight white male identifying card, and all
Right.
those cards give me a bunker if I want that bunker, right?
Right.
Where I can hold out this revolution. Luckily, we are in a moment right now, I'd like to believe, where we've just seen this prolonged. We're seeing this with some stamina and some momentum around something that hopefully just will never end. All that is context to say that there's not one way to tackle that in the theater, and
Right.
I say that to say that a lot of times anyone who does anything that might be different gets judged upon like, well, how is your different the right different?
Right. Well,
And what we're saying at Theater First is like the things that we do aren't the right different. They are one branch of exploration that
yeah.
that cannot exist by themselves. They also need what this theater company is exploring and what this theater company is exploring and what's happening. And we'd have to explore all of the different possibilities and not even just pick one.
Right.
That we actually need a coalition of different ideas to fit the many different ways that we all want to continue to create art.
No, it's amazing because you started from the beginning, your time at Theater First. You started this exploration, and it feels like now the whole theater world is in this moment. But we will get to it. We're gonna get to spend some time talking more about this. But we usually start off, Reg.
We usually start off asking you, as I do every podcast, how are you doing, Norman?
And I don't have much to report this week except
T
that
minus
Monday
2
is my
days.
birthday.
Yeah, 2 minus 2 days, and it's your birthday.
Woo! And so this week I ain't done much of anything but sort of hang out, and I'm trying to set up with family Zooms on Monday so I can check in with family. And that's been a bit of herding cats. And then hopefully I'll get to see some people tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I'm just trying to relax.
Well,
And besides, the big thing this week was the debates. I watched a local debate for my district. I'm in Oakland in the Fruitvale district. And we have Noel Gallo is the incumbent. And we have two young people who are challenging him with fresh, bold ideas and no experience and no real plan. And it was a little painful to listen to. And then the next night was Kamala, which I was so happy about. I went and I got I don't know if you know Randy Rainbow, he does a lot of satire parody, musical theater parody, political stuff. And he had done one when Kamala was anointed as the vice president candidate. He did a whole takeoff on Camelot. And so I had to dig and find that and bring that back up because I was just so happy.
Awesome. If you got something going on your birthday, let me know. I mean, if you're inviting folks over, because I want to.
I thought I did. I thought I invited you.
Oh, okay. Well, send it again. But
okay.
I was trying to look for my voting card because I have a sticker that says that I voted and I can't find it. And but in any case, I voted.
You have a sticker? I haven't even opened mine. Is there a sticker in there?
Yeah, there's a sticker, and of course, I was cleaning up because I've got someone coming over, and of course, I clean. It's gone. But in any case, I voted, so I got my my mail-in ballot, and I immediately voted. And of course, I had my laptop right next to me, so I can look at all the ballots and the measures, and really be informed and all that stuff. So, anyone who's worried, because I've had a lot of friends who are like, "Oh my God, has anyone gotten their ballots in, or is the mail going to really bring it in on time?"
Right.
I'm here to say, yeah, I got mine and I filled mine out and I sent mine out. So, but yeah, you were mentioning about the debates. So that's the local debates. But of course, we had the vice presidential debate, and I thought Kamala Harris did very well. And thank God for the fly.
Oh, yes. We jumped up. It was so funny. Did you watch the debates, John?
A little bit, little pieces of it.
We jumped up when the fly appeared.
And it stayed on. That was the cool thing.
2 minutes.
That I tell you, talk about upstaging. In theater, we talk about upstaging all the time, and boy, that fly. Give that fly an equity card.
No, it was wild. Because I was also watching. I had a group of high school friends, email thread going back and forth doing it. I was watching. I didn't see much on Facebook during it, but Twitter. And then right afterwards, everybody, I guess anybody in the world can post a poll. So all these people, I think the right purposely like made sure they put out all these polls that said Pence won. All the major polls say that Kamala won. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. I'm just ready to vote.
Yeah, exactly. And also there were some other things. Okay, so let's see. I've got my little list here. It's a very quick list. Oh, for goodness sake. I mean, I swear to God and goodness, every time I think that I've seen everything in 2020, something new happens. The kidnapping plot.
Oh
This
my
is
God!
just crazy.
What the fuck?
I mean, John, do you have any thoughts about just I mean, we've got these right-winger folks who are just going crazy. I mean, folks on the right will say, well, what about the what is it? The what's the name of the left wing who are sort of the
Oh, Antifa.
Antifa, yeah,
Or
exactly.
Antifa, depending
I
on
get
how
it confused with QAnon and all that stuff, but the extremists are just coming all over the place. And now we've got what I think 13 guys in Michigan who had a plot of
Proud Boys.
kidnapping Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, how do you feel about just the extremism that's happening in America? And are you confident about the future? And are you confident about the election in 2 weeks? How do you feel, John?
I'm terrified, embarrassed, and that we're not further along than we are as not only as whatever we want to call this nation, but as a world, that we have not been able to dismantle white supremacy and white insecurity, and that we make these false equivalencies across the board that continue to just buffer the space for white feelings, and that I'm very terrified about. I mean, let's look at this year. This has been like the worst. There's a really terrible year, and it's really scary. Like when we keep going, like what's next? We already know, like we have one more big plot point coming in a couple weeks, right? Like,
right.
No matter how this election goes, this like there's nothing more dangerous than an animal that feels like they're in a corner, right? There's nothing more dangerous.
That's a great analogy.
So the idea, but maybe there is one more dangerous thing. Somebody finally becoming a voice for that animal in the corner, right? And giving voice to white supremacist ideals that have in some ways quieted but pressurized over these great many decades. That if Trump, I mean, I'm putting wins in quotes, y'all. We're putting quotes. The way that will open up that voice and the confidence around that voice, and then, but simultaneously, if Biden and Kamala pull it off, what happens when someone who has felt but taught to be superior, taught that they were superior, then had themselves pressurized into a box where they feel like they were oppressed. Given then a voice to say like, no, you are somehow supreme. And then do you think that those folks that fall for that just mythology are going to give it up?
Yeah, exactly.
Mythology is a good word for it.
Yeah. And it is fascinating because, I mean, I don't know how old you are, John, but I would think that the newer generations would be more inclusive or more receptive to interracial, relationships and just openness and whatever. And this year has taught me, if anything else, that racism is passed on from generation to generation. Like I still think of the 17-year-old kid. I forget the Kyle
Oh,
Rittenhouse.
right.
Um,
Rittenhour or something like that.
right, Rittenhour. Yeah, exactly. And I would think, now wait a minute, how can a post millennial, in the age of the internet and connecting and streaming and having friends who should be interracially, how can they be a racist? But it happens. Norman, do you have a hot take on, let's say, the second debate? How do you think Kamala did? How do you think?
I love everybody who says they're disappointed in her, and I'm like, come on. And what I love is his strategy seemed to be to box Biden and her into the corner of you're crazy leftist socialists. And I'm like, Kamala, socialist? Kamala, not law and order?
Yeah, exactly.
And it seemed like Trump's thing was, when he did it, was to push that he was the law and order candidate and that these are not the law and order candidates. And I'm like, no, these are pretty much straight up old school law and order candidates. They're talking about willing to have a conversation about something else, but no, you can't taint them with that brush. So I would, and there, Trump kept saying, wow, you just lost the left. You said you're against this. You just lost the left. And I'm like, you don't understand. We are the left. These are not our people. We just want you out. We will vote for them. I don't care what they say. We will vote for them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that Trump is hoping that the Bernie folks and the Elizabeth Warren folks will be so upset at having a moderate candidate that boxing Biden in or having him refute, like they were talking about, can you remember what Trump was saying to Biden, can you name one law enforcement agency that supports you?
Oh, right. Yes.
And and Biden didn't step onto that third rail.
No, and then he lied and said that the Portland sheriff was supporting him, and that guy came out
exactly
instantly.
Exactly. So I think we're far more united, because I think instead of being angry, of course, 4 years ago, the Bernie folks and the Elizabeth Warren folks were upset that Hillary got in, and the way that she got in, the tactics of Debbie Wasserman and the Democratic National Convention pushing Bernie out. But we're not that angry. I mean, I'm not a progressive. I'm a moderate Democrat. But a lot of the progressives, they're like, listen, we're far more upset about Trump than we are about that. Yeah. So the strategy's not working, and the polls are very, very strong. So John, so you still feel pessimistic, although, the polls, I mean, I don't see how anyway. So I guess what you're basically saying
is... You didn't say pessimistic. You said...
what
yeah. No, to just kind of jump in on that, I would just say, I think folks know I skew pretty far to the left. I make a lot of left folks feel very much in the center. And that's but two things on that, right? Will I be voting for the Biden Kamala ticket? Absolutely, I will. And the way that I look at it for myself, with all my challenges around the dynamics of both the Democratic platform and, of course, whatever you can call the Republican platform anymore. It's kind of, I don't know. There's going to be a better analogy than the one I'm going to reach for right now. But it's like, I don't think of, when I think of the state, as it were, like I don't think of it as like, oh, who am I voting for to represent the America that I live in? The state doesn't actually represent the communities that I work with. Right. So you're instead voting for the individuals that will be the mouthpieces of the organization in which you will work with, fight with, debate with, hopefully come up with some common ground with. Which one do you want to be there, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you want to debate with and challenge in order to make a better space for all of its inhabitants, right?
Right.
And I think that is just that hopefully unites a whole lot of us in the idea of what do we want the labor to be these next 4 years.
Right.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And I do. And, you had mentioned.
That to me seems really positive, that we are looking to work. We're not just looking to stop something. We're saying, no, there's all this stuff we want to see happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just to piggyback on what you said, John, earlier about, these folks, these right-wing folks are not going to just sit back idle if Biden and Harris wins. I guess that'll be the next challenge. What will happen? Because, it's sort of the same thing that happened when Obama won. We on the left were, I remember friends were just crying, with joy. But clearly there was an undercurrent of hatred that sort of percolated and rose up, and that's why we have Trump. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I can only hope and pray that we get to a sense of normalcy where we can still be different, but as King says, we can disagree but not be disagreeable. And with that,
Nice.
let's bring in Jon Tracy, and I'll hand the keys over to you, Norman.
Sure, John, and I love the way this discussion has been going. This is my Bay Area Directors Summit, the Bad Summit. I love it. But I wanted to talk to people who are making theater, and you were high on my list right off the bat. What was the name of your company up north? Was it Darkroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in Vallejo, and my buddies, we started first, like, as kids, like we're talking like 9, 10, 11 years old. We started like with our video camera. We started dark room productions, making movies like every moment of the day. And that shifted us into, the community theaters that were as much like a place to tell stories as it was to like have a second home. We were those folks, the outcasts from the schools, all that stuff. We can kind of come together. But we, I don't know if you've ever, this is a big jump. Malcolm Gladwell's book that talks about the 10,000 hours.
Yes.
Right. Of like, where do you get those 10,000 hours? And I'm not saying I've got them, and I'm not saying I have anything because of the hours I have, but where I lucked out was that we started this company. We wanted to build theater, and a particular individual ran a particular warehouse, and Dan Robeski is his name, passed away some time ago.
Yeah.
And we had this massive warehouse space, 24-hour access to it. And we paid like $50 a month in rent for it.
Sweet.
And that was school. We could try anything, do anything. Our budgets were so small that it didn't matter that there was, and this is not my joke. This is somebody else's joke. But like, we were doing socially distanced audience members way before it was cool. Right? There was already like 10 seats between people at a lot of our productions. But it gave us a chance. Like, who's going to give like 19, 20-year-old me the keys to like King Lear or something like that?
Right.
But there, we're like, okay, let's do it. I don't know if that King Lear was any good or not, but I got to do King Lear. I got to know what it was to thrive and fail at things like that. And it was just on and on and on. We just were able to do things like that. So yes, sorry, that was a long way around to the end.
No. I mean, that was.
No, we love that.
The question is always, what's your origin and where you started, and that was it exactly. Yeah, I know for me, I was just getting to that point in my career where I was aware of the sort of greater Bay Area. And I'd heard your name, but what I remember meeting you was at the Magic. It was when the Magic did the Young Writers Program, and they brought you in as a director. Yeah. And they gave you some crazy little script, and I'll never forget. You said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to, because it was a bunch of little like vignettes, these little micro vignettes. And you said, so we're going to punctuate each one of these with everybody, because it was sort of a, like a Reservoir Dogs kind of thing or something. Right. And you're like, we're going to punctuate each one of these with a everybody, fuck, 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 fuck. And then into the next scene. And it just blew everybody's mind, because these were pieces written by high school students. And you even kind of went, is it okay if we do? And they didn't know where to go with it. And I'm like, who is this man? You just keep coming at it in a way that is very much you, but also is that restructuring based on what the materials are, who's in the room, how do we tell this story? And it seems like you've been doing that from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I look at, I mean, it's so great to hear that story because I'm like, oh, I guess that did happen, and that actually, it's like, oh, right. But yeah, no, I look back at that, and of course, like I'm always excited to about all of it. I mean, there's no piece. There's pieces that like I'm prouder than others of being a part in creating, but I love them all because they were all such great training. I do also look back at those times going like the difference between what I hope to be now as an
Hmm.
artist and a creator and a facilitator versus what I was then. It was like I was very much stuck in the like auteur
Yeah.
space, right? And like the insecurities of coming into anywhere. What do you match that with? Ego. A lot of
Right.
ego, right? And you're coming in going like, I'm gonna say fuck between every scene and all these things. And it's not that those things weren't necessarily like maybe that worked, maybe that didn't work, but I don't think that there was a lot of like what I would hope would be more of the practice now would be really trying to create a room where we were developing all of those ideas together rather
I,
than yeah, you know.
I have a quick question
Yeah,
about that. It's interesting listening to that because that's the type of theater that I enjoy. I really enjoy the rawness of language and the rawness of how people really think. Like you
yeah,
go to the streets and let's say you speak to a homeless person or someone who's really trying to, and they're just speaking their language, and it may be crass, it may be crude, it may offend delicate ears, but it's real. And that's a sort of theater that I don't often get. The question that I have is, and I've spoken to particularly female creators, females who are directors, who are producers. Like I had one conversation very recently about David Mamet, and we were talking about style, and I was like, "Oh yeah, David Mamet and Glenn Garrigan Ross or whatever," and she sort of repelled. I mean, she sort of recoiled because she was like, "Oh my God, that's the theater I hate because it's so male dominated."
Hmm.
I guess the question that I have is, is there, and it's a worry that I have as a writer because I want my writing to be real, but also to be inclusive to everyone. Like I may write a female role, but I don't know if I've hit it until a woman says, yes, that's right. Do you worry that, I don't know, that your vision may dominate, let's say, I don't know, your audience, or it may push away an audience?
yeah. I think that's absolutely the case of we're taught to come in so strong, like like every second counts, right? If you miss a space, somebody else is going to fill it, and there's this weird way where we're brought up to compete for a space in the room, right?
Right.
But like inherently, as the director coming in, I have to look at like there is privileges that I get that come with that, and I have to check those privileges at the door because I can go on and on and on, and I can say like that and say that, but what did I miss by dominating the space in that way?
Hmm.
And so I don't know. Like I think I'm trying to because I know that doesn't necessarily hit exactly what you're talking about there, Reg. But
Well, I think everyone's figuring it out,
yeah,
even
yeah,
if you, yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say so. Watching you go from that first, and I'd already heard your name. You were commuting, right? You were commuting from North Bay to come down and work at first.
my life has been commuting. It's been one. Probably most of like the prep time for any show that I've ever worked on or anything I've ever done has been in the car, driving with one hand, trying to eat something with the other,
Right.
thinking things. I mean, there was a time when I was the artistic director of a touring company out of Petaluma, and I was
Oh,
living in Davis. So you imagine it's like 90-minute drive every day, back and forth, things like that.
right.
So commuting's always been the thing, right?
But and it kind of because you are a local
Yeah.
trying to find your space in this theater scene, you're kind of jumping into the big thing. It was nice to see you started to pick up work all over the place. And
Yeah. Yeah.
did that transition just feel natural, or was it kind of like, oh shit, is this happening?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, first, there's been some people that helped that make that happen.
Oh, yeah, say names.
Terry
Good.
Ruckers and the George McGuires early on.
Mm-hmm.
The Joy Carlin is the one who really sort of got me down into the Bay Area officially, and started to get me into AD gigs, and just started helping me plant the seeds for something. And then, of course, there was sort of this a lot of people just gave me a chance right away, and I'm really happy that they did give me that chance right away, and it helped me build out something much, a resume really, really quickly. And I'm forever indebted to the to Bill and Susie over at SF Playhouse for I swear. And I mean, here's the story of me, Bill, and Susie. Hey,
Yeah.
John, hi, here's a play for you to direct it. It's not perfect. I'm still figuring it out. Oh, okay. Well, maybe you need another play to direct. Okay, well, I'll figure out these things. Okay, it's not perfect. Well, how about, okay, cool. You better try this one now. And it was just every time I came up a little short, it was answered with, here's another one to learn a little bit more on.
Uh-huh.
And that was, I mean, the luck of that alone, the luck of Loretta opening up the space over at Magic,
Mm-hmm.
and MTC Aurora has been great, and there was a synergy for a while around those things that allowed me to just, and I know it's rare, and I call it out as rare. I was able to live and pay rent off of directing plays.
Yeah, how many people get to do that?
Yeah, it was a nice few years in a lot of ways, and I don't know if we want to segue into it, but it also it birthed the understanding of what needed to happen next for my career, which moved me into the
Yeah. No, oh, definitely. Go.
and well, I mean,
Is this theater first or before theater first?
this is, I mean, I think it's just sort of was this dawning moment, which happened over the years, where, and of course, this is with deep respect to all of the people that I've named, and many more that have given me so many opportunities. But I was starting to look at, I had always been taught, and maybe I taught myself to believe, that theater was my my political outlet. It was where I was
Right.
going to scream and shout, and it's where I was going to do all of these progressive things. And then there's that moment when, for me, I can't speak for anyone else. I realized, oh wow, this bullhorn that is theater, is also that I thought was for progress, also holds all of these really traditional ideas within it, and
Mm-hmm.
actually locks in a history of racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism,
Yeah.
and that I, in trying to do something different, was in many ways just helping keeping that all
Yeah.
in the box,
Continuing the cycle. Yeah.
continuing the cycle. I mean, art over time, as much as we'd like to think of it as progressive, has actually carried a lot of horrible history with it.
Yeah.
That's, of course, that's one branch of what art's done. Obviously, I speak to anybody else, and we can see all the ways that art has brought forward many cultures and helped them survive. Absolutely, but we aren't also in a dynamic yet in our world where we can look at traditions and let go of some things in order for the best parts of them to thrive. But some of those things need to be let go of, right?
Right. Well, it's hard because you feel rooted, so that feels safe. It feels secure.
Yeah.
To let go of that is unsafe, is
Yeah.
insecure.
Absolutely. And I also understand that, a lot of my success was also rooted in the safety. I'm going to put this in the way that put in the way it is, the safety of the identity that I present.
Sure.
And I needed to start to figure out how to work against that. Around
You
that.
definitely seem to have challenged it because I will say, as a local, I was excited to see you coming up, and things like Animal Farm where it's like, oh my God, this is, you are doing what should be done. You are taking this story that we should be familiar with and rebirthing it.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
want to hear about this. I love Animal
Oh,
Farm.
yeah, this was well, John can say more about it than I, but it's a wonderful adaptation of Animal Farm outside.
We had I mean, it again, there's I can't believe it, this, it's always why I'm terrified by doing these interviews. It's like, what will I leave out? Thank you for bringing that up, because it means I can talk for a second about Shotgun Players, which is continues to be a home. I'm a company member there. I've been a company member there for 10 years or something.
Ooh, nice
thing. But yeah, I mean, it was, man, it's so weird to even know how that came about, but they had for a while, that was something that was big of Shotgun, is doing these outdoor shows.
Right.
And it's always like, everything is site specific. Every show is site specific. But one of the things about John Hinkle Park was like, what fills this space, right? Like, I know Cal Shakes even started there, and I didn't get to see anything that they did there. So I didn't see
right.
Like, we also know, like, we've seen outdoor stuff that's like, it doesn't fill the space, right?
Yeah.
And so Animal Farm was something, of course, that made a lot of sense to me, and with my politics, things I wanted to talk about. I also realized that, like, I don't spend, you'll see in most of the places that I work on, I don't spend a lot of time going, fuck Trump in.
Right.
Like, that's sort of a given. What I'd rather do is do work that makes us go like, all right, let's look inside our own platforms and look at the same classism, let's look at the same issues and the same bubbles that we're creating, that we're pointing at from another platform, right? And that's why I thought, Animal Farm was a perfect one, right? Here's one about a revolution and then becoming the very thing, right? And that you revolted against.
At a time when we weren't, I don't remember that being a time of revolution. It just felt like somehow the story just popped wonderfully, even though it wasn't directly responding to anything that I could see.
Yeah, there was a piece of language that we came up with very early on in that, which spoke very much like, I think one of the things you got to figure out is like, okay, there's the audience you want, and we could have a conversation about like actual necessary outreach that actually has impact.
Right.
And there's the audience you're gonna get at this moment. And what, if you're Shotgun in that moment, and unfortunately still true, is going to be a lot of like aging white North Berkeley liberals. They're going to be in the space.
Yeah.
They're going to be in the space.
It's their space. Yeah.
There's and within that came up this space, this piece of language that I'm going to misquote, but it's when the pigs towards the end, things are starting to fall apart, and Napoleon's like, they're these revolution, these others, they're screaming and shouting, they're yelling, and being pressurized by that. And Squealer, the confidant, saying, let them yell, let them scream, let them just, it is necessary for a fascist dictatorship to have folks that scream in a circle. It keeps them all doing what they're doing. It keeps them all yelling at each other, sharing facts about things that happened that they're so mad about. But that energy just eats itself. And that became sort of the core of what we wanted to talk about with the audience we knew we were going to get.
Yeah.
All love to North Berkeley folks, because there's so many great ones, but it was something that actually resonated and we could have deep conversations about. That was the other thing that we decided within it, but it came from that seed was when you read the book, it's very much about the concept of like the sheep.
Yes.
Like it's all these animals, but like there's a duh version. I think these people are the sheep. What we did is like, what would happen if we intellectualized all of these characters to have like, some real thought process and being able to filter and still fall for it.
It's interesting, because that was during a time, when Orwell wrote that. There were all sorts of writers in the post World War II that wrote about okay, we may have won against fascism or whatever, but what created it, or what's happening right now? You have writers like Rod Serling. You have writers like who wrote Rhinoceros. We talked about it in a
Yeah,
long
yeah,
time
yeah,
Oh yeah,
episode.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But you had these writers, and I get the feeling that like I remember when Shotgun had, because that was only a couple of years ago, that because I remember the poster of Animal Farm.
Well, they brought it back, right?
We brought it. It actually, so it had a nice life at schools throughout the years, and then we brought it back at Theater First a couple of years ago.
Yay.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. But I do wonder, are we at the time right now, do you think, John, where we sort of need that sort of story or that narrative now to sort of talk about what's happening now? Because I get the feeling that in the 1940s, there was this energy by writers to say, hey, listen, let's not get relaxed in commercialism and consumerism and the toys that we have and, the rock and roll and television or whatever. There are things happening within our government, no matter, whatever country it is, like, the rise of communism or whatever. That's how stories like Animal Farm in 1984 pop up. Do you see that energy happening right now?
Well, I would say I'm going to jump on this because
Sure.
I think it's great for where Theater First, the burgeoning of Theater First. Now, I knew about Theater First, and it turns out I knew about them fairly, when I started Oakland Public Theater here in Oakland, they had been a relatively new company. I watched them be nomadic and go all over the place. This poor man, Clive, kept finding a space, turning it into a theater space, getting it, this energy is happening, it's starting to happen, and the landlord's going, we can rent this space out to somebody now, and taking it away from him. Over and over again that happened. And I remember when they did their first season, and they announced in the brochure that that they were a company that focused on international stories, which cracked me up because Clive is British. And I'm like, every story I see feels British to me. But I looked at the brochure, and sure enough, there was Argentina, there was Russia, there was, I forget, there were like 4 or 5 places that were not England, but most of those were the scripts that they actually used. Oh, South Africa, that was the other one. Most of the scripts they used were translations, British translations of these stories. So they all felt British to me.
Yeah.
And then, so he had his time, he passed it on. Michael Storm popped in and did a wonderful job of navigating that space for a while. When you come in, it seemed to me like you sort of exploded it. Like you started from the place where Reg's question comes from, that you find a story that you feel is worth exploring and developing. It feels to me like you've taken Theater First and sort of used that company to do that now. We're going to explode this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what you have to look at, like what the assets of an organization or a company are, and see where they can thrive and where they can't. And Theater First seemed to be really well positioned within a much larger conversation to just take, as I said, take one path and explore it for a while. And that was in a space where we needed to really debunk a lot of the language being used in mission statements about equity and representation. We need to, and I want to say debunk,
Right.
and look at for like what were actually actionable items that could be explored deeply in within that. Theater First seemed like the one that we're going to explore is how can you, and if so, how do you decentralize whiteness in a traditionally white-led theater company still led by a white dude?
Right.
Is that possible? Is that necessary also?
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, to circle all the way back, is artistic facilitator. It was like, first thing is lop the head off of it. He doesn't run this place anymore. He works, the artists run this space. And then the artists come and go like, all right, is that bullshit? Because when you say that sounds like bullshit, right? All right, cool. So instead of like ever having me go like what feels like probably the way that you would trust me the least is probably me going like, hey, trust me, right? So instead of trust me, here is all of the stuff that we have done that you can trust, that even if there's a moment where I do something that you're like, I don't like that. That is not what we want. This is exactly against it. You have the buffer of an entire organization of humans and rules that allow you space and access to your safety in the room. And that builds out of, I mean, the very first thing that happened when I got there was the reimagining of the board. And we reimagined the board to the point at this moment as I speak to you. There's the board happens to be 100% BIPOC, 100%.
Right on.
Yeah, we had Sherry Lynn on. We had Sherry Lynn on as the first.
Right.
Oh, Cherry.
Yeah. And that means that though all of those voices, all of those minds, and all of those humans run the company. They run the company. They're not a board that just kind of come in and throw a check, or all of that's gone from our board. Our board runs the moral compass and the financial structure of the organization. And I work for them. Right. And it was with them that we said, okay, well, all right, here's the things that we want to do. We want to first look at these words that people are using, like diversity, right, inclusion, allyship, and look at how those have actually been tools of white folks kind of staying exactly where they are. Yeah. Right? Now, I don't want to actually disparage those terms, and I have disparaged those terms in the past. But I'm going to say
that my understanding is diversity is now like off the table. If you're applying for grants, you can't even use the word anymore.
Well, there's the problem with these is that all of these words have been co-opted by every platform. And so they don't actually have necessarily, there's probably a meaning inside all of those words that I'd be like, yeah, I that definition I like. But the problem is we use words with multiple definitions to manipulate, to create false connections between people, because I say a word diversity, you hear this definition, I hear this definition, and we agree to not ask each other what that definition is. Right,
exactly. Yeah.
And so, but I watched diversity in mission statements for years, basically, meaning like how many times I'm speaking from my orbit, because me saying this to you is something that you will know on a level.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, but I understand. I mean, looking at mission statements, it said we are diverse. We are 50% persons of color.
Right.
What the fuck is diverse about that?
Yeah.
So it's like diverse from what is what seemed like, and that seemed to be the same thing with inclusion for a while too. It's like, well, who's doing the including, folks?
Yeah. Right. It's funny. We've had a couple of I think Radhika Rao, she would talk about how other companies would want her in because, we got to bring in our inclusivity. So we need to get an Indian person in. So, you be our token Indian person. Yep. And of course she felt manipulated. And a lot of people of color feel manipulated because it's like,
well, she's not part of the conversation. She's just included.
Right, exactly. A question I had for you, Jon, it's wonderful listening to this, and it's so wonderful, the vision of Theater First and the humbleness. That's a lot of things that you don't get from a lot of executive directors or people who are in command. The willingness to say, hey, listen, I may sit in this particular chair, but I'm willing to open the door for all of the conversations to come in. Do you feel yourself more as an administrator, or do you still consider yourself a creative? Like, do you still write? Do you still direct?
Great question.
Oh man, you hit the button. There's a lot of my own personal conversations with my partner right now about what that looks like. I mean, COVID has brought that up for all of us. Like, who are we? There is I believe that my job at Theater First and foremost is to make sure that there are the resources there for artists to thrive. If we're going to create a space where artists get to tell their own stories and get to have creative teams that identify deeply with the story that's there, so it's not It's not a story about Filipino heritage told by a white dude, directed by a white dude. Like it's like, what is it to create those affinity spaces? Like, if it's my job to make sure that those resources are there, that's, unless you can move that job up to an art form, you shouldn't be doing it, right? Building and producing and navigating is an art form, and it's one that I feel like I'm in my nascent stages of, in a lot of ways, because there's so much learning about my own self and my own, like, I grew up in like Western storytelling and learning how to just unpack that, and to make sure that you're supporting stories, not only the stories that are not mine but must be supported, but must be also told in a way that may be not my way of telling that story.
Okay? Which you guys have done. Oh my God! When I think of what is their name, Star, the playwright,
Star Finch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To bring in people like that to tell these stories, which what I love on one level, they're stories. They're stories like we recognize stories, but then they aren't.
Yeah. I'm so proud of every single thing that we've put up there. And there's and some of the things that we put up there, I'm like, no, that doesn't resonate to me in the same way. But being able to just like detach myself from the center of that story and understand myself from a different orbit is powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful experience. The idea of being able to like to say straight to artists' faces is like, you do not need to prepare this story for anyone other than the people that you want to prepare it for, which could be intersectional if you want it to be. But it's like, it's no longer the thing of like, again, a thing that we all know so well of the, oh, hey, we've commissioned this Indian playwright. And then the workshop process turns out to be, how do we package this for old white donors?
Right.
Yeah, we've experienced that in Hayward. Like, well, this is a Hayward audience, so you got to be careful. It's like, well,
yeah. And I think that has also become part of my job, is understanding like, I need to be able to do my part to protect the creativity in that space. Part of that is not interfering or intoxicating it, but also making sure that my job will be like, okay, I know that we'll have an intersectional audience. How does this stay true to itself? But also, how do we talk about it with multiple communities? That's my job.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I wanted to. Did you want to spend any time talking about episode 1, Magic Fruit Delano, and You Really Should Sit Like a Lady?
I would love to. It's been so yeah. We thank you. We like so many others, we have went from being a theater company to I guess a film company in the last few months, and we decided that what we wanted to do was do everything that we do, commission new work, and that's something that says that we only do really new work or development of old work to make it new.
Right.
And we wanted to figure out how to give our communities something to just reflect off of over like this next season. And what we did is we thought, well, so we commissioned 6 pieces, but instead of them being sequential like you would know a season to be,
right.
They're in one way or another, they're split up into multiple parts like a serial.
Sure.
Right. And so there's this first episode felt like an entire season worth of work, which is great. It also is like, I can't believe there's 10 more to do, but getting it off the ground last night. And I mean, folks, like what it was like, the every nightmare scenario up to, we had to like change servers an hour before the premiere yesterday, which we were just sitting there like this, seeing if it would upload onto our website
right
in time. And it's supposed to be at 6 o'clock, like 6:01 it loaded and we just pressed go. It was that sort of drama.
Aye.
But so that's that side of it. The other side of it is we have these 6 pieces. Magic Fruit, written by Camilla Chokri and Alejandro Rivas, directed by Susanna Martin, visually designed by Aaron Gilly. They've created a space about it's about how do you, I mean, it's a lot of questions. It's how do you create a relationship online during COVID? And this has to do not with necessarily a romantic relationship. Like it's how do you, like, what is connection over Zoom, right? And what happens, the fears of like, oh, someday we're actually maybe going to be sharing air and be in public space again. Is that good or bad? Like we can build an entire dynamic this way. And there's this also, which I think is fun within the world of Zoom, is deals so much with the concept of food and culture within food. How does that play out throughout it? So theirs is very much the, like, you if you see episode 1, you get like the first 20 minutes of the play and you see where it goes from there. The next, and then sequentially right after that is the first, what we have a commission from the NEA to look into the Delano grape strike.
Oh, right. Yes. I saw that. I saw that you were playing with that.
And so, we're always trying to explore.
Holy shit. Talk about Filipino.
Yeah.
That's going to be fucking cool.
What we did was we got, all right, we're looking at like how folks identify within the own stories that they told. Like here were 3 figures that we wanted to look at. One was Larry Leong, of course.
Yeah.
Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta.
Dolores Huerta, yeah.
And then we thought, well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be cool as an exploration to not have one playwright do this? What if we had a playwright that identified with each one of those characters, only writing that character and working together on how that would be built? So Jeffrey Lowe's doing It Leong, Lisa Ramirez is doing Huerta, and Carlos Aguirre is doing Chavez. All of it's being developed by Sean San Jose, and Chris Herrera is working on the visual design of it. And I'm trying to be as quick as humanly possible. They decided, instead of giving us segments in that way, they wanted to do 3 documentaries before they showed their entire piece. So in episode 1, you get an interview / documentary with Jeffrey Lowe talking to Ron Muriera about It Leong. And and so to me, and probably don't have time to talk about philosophy of theater, but like,
well, take your time. We have plenty of time. We have enough time as you do.
We're here.
Down. So I mean, just very quickly, like, I think that the future of theater is in many places. One of them is for us to stop talking about stages and seats, and we need to start talking about the tool of theater for us to explore interpersonal communication. And how we learn to understand each other and translate each other, much in the way that we were just talking about the word diversity, like how we can say one thing but it be defined by another in a different way, and how we manipulate and move that line all over the place. That to me is the theater that I want to see. I mean, the 3 of us are in a piece of theater right now. We're in a perfect piece of theater because we're each other's. We're performing for each other and we're each other's audience members simultaneously. That's what theater needs to be. And I think that's where you can evaluate all of the power of theater. So a documentary about Larry It Leong with 2 people communicating about an idea is a piece of theater to me.
Right.
Third, on top of that, is You Really Should Sit Like a Lady by Lisa Evans. And they, along with Ashley Smiley, have been working on a piece that Lisa had been building for some time about just trans narrative. And it's this solo piece that they've been building. And they created something outside of the realms of narrative or documentary. for me, it feels like a hybrid of an essay and then this conversation that goes even deeper into this, like some hard truths about very, very personal experience, and it's very raw, and yet it's Lisa, so they are very, very, very funny, and so
Yeah.
raw and funny happen together. All of this is so he's to see one episode is not only to see these 3 chapters
Yeah.
sequentially, we've wrapped them together with what we call community. Like we want the whole thing to be like a community bullhorn. So we're connecting our audiences with organizations that are represented by identity within these pieces.
Sure.
We're doing community spotlights on folks. Like the first one has we have a piece called "Folks That Get Shit Done," and the first one in this one is about Dan Wolf.
Yay!
And all the work that he's been doing around the world. And I feel like what you're just going to see is like this. What we hope is this bowl of community, and that it attempts to do 2 things. Maybe I don't know if it's 2. One is it's not. I don't. We actually not entirely, but we move away from the word community. Because the word community has so many.
It's another one of those words, yeah.
And we've been using, though it's only slightly more defined, but I can define it, the word coalition.
Okay.
And the reason that the difference being a coalition to me can be something that holds many pieces that are still their own autonomous space. Community has this idea of homogenation a lot.
Yes.
And when you look at this episode, I think it is emblematic of this idea that each one of the things in there holds its own space. We're not saying that this story and this narrative and this history is this history or this history. They're all their own things. And we didn't look, you won't look for like, oh, wow, they themed it all and they used all the same graphics. We let it all be different. So because the world is different. And it's to throw out yet another word that I feel like has a lot of challenges around it, even though it feels like such a positive one, is the word empathy. You know? And the reason why I take a little bit of challenge with it is that empathy's strict definition is to feel the same weight, story, pain as another person.
Sure.
But the problem is that's not actually possible.
Right.
Right. I can have compassion for another person's experience. I can have sympathy, and more to the point, I should still fight for people even if I can't be in their shoes. You know?
And even if you don't have the empathy, even if you don't, if you can't, because obviously you're right.
I can't be. And to say that if I were to look at either of you and go, I feel your pain, you go, fuck you, Jon. You know? I cannot feel your specific pain. We are going to find all the places that we can connect. We're going to find all the journeys we can all go on. I can believe in I can see what you believe in. I can fight for it with you. And I think that that's a lot of the problem of privileged folks that go like, well, I just don't really feel what they're feeling.
Right.
Of course you can.
Right.
Of course you can't. And that's the beginning of that journey of actually just giving over to experiences that aren't your own, not trying to, because if I say I do, it means what I'm doing is I'm taking your experience and I'm cramming it down into a little box where I can hold it, and I'm not scared of it in any way. It means I've reduced you. Why don't we spend our time expanding on each other? You know,
this is the Theater First that has. I mean, I've always appreciated and respected Theater First, but this exploration just makes me feel like, because the other thing is live theater versus any other medium that you could use is its own thing, and it's exciting to see this attempt to expand that, to find another way to approach it, and not just be another company doing the same old thing.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so.
Well,
Yeah.
quick question for you, Jon, and I want to be respectful for everyone's time.
Yeah,
But
we're
this is a
getting that
wonderful,
time for
wonderful time.
sure.
How has the business model been? I mean, on paper, it
Oh my
feels
God.
wonderful
So
to
aren't you
get.
guys the first companies that like were saying we're going to pay people a minimum wage
Yeah.
just for your time, period?
Yeah. I mean, I am so I'll be like really open with it. We were when I came on, the budget for Theater First was like about 60K
Uh-huh.
annually. Um, Last season we ended about 340, which is not a bad jump for 4 years, you know.
Sure.
We also never wanted to become so large that we weren't able to do things our way.
Right.
And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of things that we have figured out how to do a little bit differently. And we just have thrown down some big gauntlets, right? That's what we
Yep.
do. We're going to, no more stipends. We're going to pay everyone an hourly wage. Cool. We said that without necessarily even knowing how we were going to do it. And
I remember.
a lot of it had to do with this like reimagining where things were. I mean, the one that actually started that off was saying, we're going to be the first theater company that we know of that pays actors for the audition process.
For the audition, yep.
Yeah. Because we realize we're doing all new work. Anyone coming in the room that are putting their translation of those words have helped develop that play. So they want to get paid for it, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I always had to say, like, I want to go back to the hourly thing. Like, we wouldn't have been able to even figure it out had we not looked at folks like SF Mime Troupe and their models, that they've been doing something close to that for years.
Okay.
A lot of our collective model comes from them as well. And that, there's many different, I can't push it enough, even if I'm doing a bit of a non sequitur or getting there in my way. Anything we've done is not the thing. There are so many other organizations, theater or otherwise, that have been exploring the things that we've been exploring for years, decades.
Right. Yeah.
We are a particular grouping of ideas to see how they all work off of one another. And we'll just take the information and we'll share that information, and somebody coming up right now is going to figure out a better way to do all of the stuff that we've done. The information will be out there for them. So
I can't wait to see. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing this. So how are you putting these episodes out now? You said last night was the big launch.
Yeah. So we are. It comes out once a month. And then that's about what we can figure out how to do, because it is so much work. The amount of people behind the scenes working all over the world right now. Putting these all together, and the production is happening. And so we had 6 commissions. 3 of them were in episode 1 chapter, and then 3 of them will be in episode 2, and they'll kind of go back and forth throughout the year, and they'll all end in episodes that will just showcase that particular play.
Got you.
So that's how you get to all 11 of them.
That's going to be amazing. It's
been pretty great. We've never been a place that's had a lot of subscribers. Because for various good reasons, that wasn't our model. This year, that's our model, and we have hundreds of people that have bought a really inexpensive subscription to the entire season. And also on top of that, Kamiya Shokri, who's our education director, we realized, oh wow, this season would be really good curriculum as well. So we have another 500-600 students around the Bay Area that are using our episodes as a supplemental curriculum.
Sweet.
Pretty awesome.
Nice. Really, really cool. Where do you see the future of Theater First? I mean, where do you see your guys, or even you, in the next 5 years or so?
Coming back?
Well, I don't know if you saw, there's a piece that came out in the Chronicle a couple weeks ago, is that, and this is, there's a lot to it, but to sum up, because I never do, I am demoting myself.
Right, I did, yes. Yeah. I did see that. Yeah,
I'm demoting myself more into the administrative part of the work, and through our company, and we haven't talked at all about the 28 people that create our company members that are sort of the other brain trust, along with the board. But instead of just going like, hey, we're going to have a different artistic director or facilitator or whatever that was, obviously what it was, part of it is our company as a place where it is time for this organization to have a different identity at its core, right? That is leading the piece, and that I am honored to work for whomever that person is. The company itself said, well, wait, what if we created a pipeline? What if we created a pipeline model? Because a lot of people don't want to be artistic directors for a ton of time, or they want to be artistic directors at humbly, companies much larger than our own, but they don't have the sandbox space for that.
Right.
And my first thought about this, like, okay, so what we're talking about is a pipeline for artistic directors that's focusing on the BIPOC experience. First of all, there are multiple BIPOC experiences,
right?
But my first fear was that it would be looked at like as a fellowship or a mentorship. And I feel like that's a colonialist bullshit we needed to get away from, really. No one needs me saying, well, when I did it, no one needs that, right? There are amazing artists throughout the Bay Area and beyond that, just like everything we do, I don't need to be told how to do. They don't need to be taught how to. They need the space and time to figure it out.
Yeah.
To be in that space to go like, I've had all of these theories, all of these years, but I know there are no opportunities. We want this to be the sandbox for this next artistic director coming in. What we're doing is the first one will come in and they'll have a half year sort of they'll be called the incoming artistic director, and because it's new work, so you need a year, like at least a half a year, to like be building commissions, building relationships, and strategizing a 3-year space. And we're working with I can't name any yet, but we're working with a couple of foundations that are also looking at helping support to make sure that as that 3 years is coming to a close, there's a bulk of money given to that person to help them get national.
Sure.
If that's what they want to do. So hopefully it'll just be a pipeline to get just more and more true. And these are words I feel like I can stand behind: equitable representation in the national and international theaters.
It's a huge vision. I'm scared, but I'm hopeful. I'm like, this sounds like a great direction to be going in.
Scared and hopeful sound like a really good energy between those two things.
Yeah.
Should always be a little scared. It makes us doubt. I would believe in the power of doubt sometimes, right? It can be a monster, but also it gives you a chance to always take a step back and see what the heck it is you're doing, and always reevaluate what you're doing, no matter.
I love this, and I love this conversation. I feel bad because I feel like we should also tie it up, but that
absolutely
seems like a good place to kind of put a button in it for now.
Yeah, I think so. But also, I mean, you've done amazing work. Well, Theater First itself has done amazing work. Just great diversity, great subject matters, great plays. And I've always heard, the great works of Theater Works. And you're one of the individuals behind it.
Theater First. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Theater First. That's what I meant. So, you should, I'm sure you don't want to take a pat on the head, on the back, but, you deserve a lot of praise for the work that you've done.
It means a lot to hear that. I was saying to somebody yesterday that, I'll sum up with this. I was talking with dear friend Kathleen Ridley last night on the phone after she had watched the full episode that has 100% ASL interpreted, which was a major.
Oh, that's right. Oh, those images are
excellent.
So cool.
And she hadn't seen that before. She hadn't seen it before. And I think it's fair for me to say that she was overwhelmed with the possibilities of how that positioned the future of the conversation. Yeah. And in talking about it, the only thing I can say to Kathleen is like, the only thing I've ever done right around here is I've learned new ways to listen to the right people. And I listened to her. She made that happen.
Right.
All I did was figure out, do enough work on myself to listen openly enough to hear the necessity of something that should have been obvious all along. And I'll give myself that, and I also give myself that because it's a continued challenge, because it's always continued unpacking to find new and better ways to listen without filters, listen without personal objectives getting in the way, listen without personal histories and hierarchies getting in the way. That's the mission moving forward.
I got to sign up. I'm loving this.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jon Tracy. Shout outs, birthdays.
Oh, Lordy, it's a big list, so I'll try to go quickly.
It's okay.
Lucinda Hitchcock Cohn is somebody I met when I did a show in Sacramento, and every time we bump into each other again, I'm so excited. She is such an amazing talent, actress. Regina Evans, who is sort of on the other end of that spectrum. I met Regina when she had just come back from Australia and was helping out with Central Works. And now she's gone on to create this whole thing around sex workers, sex trafficking, and her own solo piece, and then her shop. If you've gone to her shop, in fact, Regina sold me my tuxedo that I wore for my wedding, and my wife her dress.
Nice.
It's a weird small world. Lisa Ramirez, who you mentioned, her birthday is coming up this week. Michael Lopez, somebody I worked with at Thick Description many years ago. We did at least a couple of shows together there, and he's now on the East Coast. Tim, God, I'm gonna mess up his name. Giugni. Giugni. One of the two puppeteers I've ever gotten to know a little bit, and I love both of them because they use puppets, but they're very adult in their approach to it. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything racy. It does mean that you get sucked into a puppet show a lot deeper than you ever imagined you would. Eric Avalez is one of the two people I think I have on the list who is somebody I met through Each One Reach One, going into juvenile halls and teaching playwriting. Emily Talbot, I'm getting ready to work with next week, in about a week or so, because she's going to be directing one of the plays for Playground. Annika Bergman is somebody I had never met before, and she had to step into As You Like It last summer. Short rehearsal process. I think she got 5 performances and had to learn music on top of it all. She was amazing, wonderful. Michael Ray Wisely, and I was so happy to see Michael's name pop up on the list because his wife, Wendy, has just come out of the hospital with, was it brain cancer? Oh my God. And, they put out this very hopeful message this week. So if you know them, sending some love their way, please. But his birthday's coming up this week. Akaina Ghosh is somebody else I worked with on As You Like It last summer. There were a couple of performers. There were a lot of performers in that show that I felt like I was competing with. It's like, my scene is next. Your scene is a fucking heartbreaker, and I got to come with the comedy in the next scene. God damn you. And she was one where I was like, okay, fuck that. I'm just writing that off every show. She would do an exit, and we would stand there and wait for her exit to finish. And then we'd start to talk, and the audience would applaud. And it was like, you're not applauding for us. You're applauding for us, throwing as much love towards her as you can. Just amazing. I share a birthday with her, and with L. Peter Callender, and with Ryan Montgomery. So if you know Peter, Peter is running the African American Shakespeare Company. He is probably the premier African American actor in the Bay Area. Ryan, on the other end of the spectrum, is a wonderful actor, but is also somebody who works with his hands and does this incredible craft and woodwork. Nina Handler is somebody, I'm not sure we've ever been face to face, but isn't she running a space now? I think. James Lantoya was a young when I met him, Filipino American actor. Lori Zook was running a space in downtown Oakland, or helping to run a space called the Metro, Oakland Metro. Gorgeous little space. They've actually torn that whole building down and are putting up a huge high-rise. But the Oakland Metro folks have moved on and are they do a lot of music work as well as performance work. The Oakland Opera, I think, is their baby. Almost done. Carolyn Doyle, somebody that we know. I'll leave that one for Reg. Gina Perdyman is somebody I've not met, but she is the wife of Chico Perdyman, who is one of my favorite actors. So when he got married, I was excited to see that he brought somebody into the family, into the theater family here. Casey Jones Bastions is somebody I got to work with on a couple of musicals out at the Willows, which also doesn't exist anymore. And I think she's making noise about leaving the Bay Area, which I'm going to be kind of bummed about. Matt Zemanowski was the other Each One Reach One guy. Matthew Bale and I worked out with Livermore Shakes before they were Livermore Shakes, when they were Tri-Valley Shakes. Rolanda, we mentioned, her birthday is coming up this week. Paige, we didn't mention it on air. I asked you before because I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up her last name. I think she's got an accent over the last E, so I think it's Denis. I hope. Last one's Paige Rogers, amazing solo. When I first got to the Bay Area, solo performance was huge across America, and Paige Rogers was one of those people that made me go, shit, we've got this here. This is amazing. Yolanda Bradshaw, young African-American actress. And final one is our guest from last week, Taranj Yegiazarian, Golden Thread Theater, who is also stepping down. So we're going to see this transition that's happening. Those are my birthdays for the week. Reg?
And we've had Taranj Yegiazarian and also Paige Rogers. We've had all of them have been on the A. Let's see. Along with you, a good friend of mine, I've had a couple of friends who have graduated from Duke Ellington School of the Arts, Elizabeth Croydon, and she is a comedic actress. As a matter of fact, she's done stand-up comedy, and I think she's been on, oh shucks, what is it's the very famous one in Toronto. I can't think of.
Second City, what?
Second City, yes.
Oh, okay.
So her birthday is on the 12th. She shares that with you, along with my sister, Shantice Foster. No, I'm sorry, Nicole, my other sister. Any case,
don't get your sisters mixed up.
I know. Bad me. Any case, also, you mentioned Carolyn Doyle. Her birthday, it will be the next day. That's Tuesday. Fantastic actress, and she will also be participating in the Brecht Project, which I'm involved in.
Nice.
I'll talk about that later. Yeah, she's an actress. Susan Evans got her involved, so that's fantastic. I'm so glad that she's getting involved. When she was on the A, she talked about being a mother and being, of that age where you think that you're just being phased out and you're not being paid attention to. But the theater community will bring you in. If you have talent, and Carolyn has a lot of talent, then there'll be work for you. So she'll be participating. And so let's see, who else do we have? Christine Uren, her birthday is on the 15th, and actually my sister is on the 15th. That's Thursday. Also, Christine Uren, she is a fantastic writer and a playwright, and she's also involved in the Brecht Project. She's writing a play called The Informer, and she and her husband, Gene, hopefully in February, we'll get to do a segment of the A where we talk about people who have fallen in love in theater and how theater can bring people together. So Christine and Jean, and we had her, those are one of the earlier episodes of the A, but we'll bring them back in. So they'll talk about love in theater. In any case, happy birthday, Christine. Let's see, who else? Taranj, Page, we've talked about them. Aaron Martinson, he's a fantastic actor. He and I shared the stage. We did Pride Open, and one of the very, very first plays that I got produced was a one-act play called Father Son, where I, as a father, think that my son is gay. Actually, he isn't gay. He's just metrosexual, and hilarity ensues. And he was my son, although he's white and I'm black. It didn't matter. And that was one of the very last productions before Chuck Polly passed away. But Aaron Martinson, he's a fantastic actor. We had a lot of fun I had a lot of fun working with him. I'm not sure if he's in the Bay Area anymore, but his birthday is Friday, so I want to give a shout out to him. And on Saturday, and of course we'll have a Yay episode, so we'll talk Saturday, Dale Murphy. And Dale Murphy has been a veteran of the Bay Area stage. I worked with Dale when we were with Ray of Light Theater. I think he was involved in, it was Bat Boy, the musical. And Dale is, we talk about theater as a community. Dale is one of these guys where he he will work on another theater project, and all of a sudden I'll get a phone call or email, and he's like, "Hey, I'm working on this thing, and I told them about you, and do you want to act or do a reading?" And I'm like, "Wow, thank you so much, Dale." And so it's one of the cool things about the Bay Area theater community, where everyone is trying to support everyone else. Like if I'm working on a project and I think that Norman would be good for it, then I'll mention his name. And if Norman's working on a project and he thinks that I'll be good for something, he'll mention my name. So all of us are, supporting each other. And Dale is certainly, I think I've gotten 2 or 3 jobs just off of Dale saying, "Hey, check out this guy named Reg Clay." So I want to give shout out to Dale. Thank you so much. His birthday is Saturday. And that's my list.
Yay!
Shows.
Anybody you want to throw in on the John?
My mom, October 17th.
Right on. Happy birthday.
Yay! Libras!
She I will say is an amazing author and amazing supporter of the arts throughout the Bay Area. And she and my dad have been there for me from the start. So happy birthday, Mom.
Right on. That's fantastic. You have any shows you want to push?
Yeah, Jeffrey Lowe has a piece reading that they did last night. So I'm not sure, with all this online stuff, I'm not sure if that means it's done or if it's still happening, but I will send you a link for it. It's through an organization. I just had it up. Where was it? In New York.
Wow. Right on.
Is that it? Nope, that's not it. That's my birthday shit. Asian American International Film Festival. He directed a piece called Case Unsolved by C.J. Ariano. So that Neighborhood Stories, Aaron Merritt's thing, has extended and is doing one more today. I think it's at 2 o'clock, so I don't know that anybody's going to get this information from us before that happens. And then, of course, Playground. I am directing a piece. Reg has a piece in it.
Yeah, right on. Playground. Thank you so much. And so yeah, it's very, very cool. Did you want to speak more on what's your piece about, Norman?
My piece is, well, they're all under the theme of suffrage. And my piece is a very fun piece about voting. We have knights.
Oh,
there are knights in my piece.
Knights?
I'm like, and it was so funny because when we were talking about it, they said, "It sounds like you're wanting to direct this piece." And I was like, that wasn't really what I was trying to say, but yes, I do want to put knights on stage when we're talking about voting. Yes.
Right on. No, yeah, suffrage. That is the piece, and Jim Kleinman will be directing mine. And we got to get him on. We got to get him on the.
I know we do.
Yeah, and my piece is called Woodhull and the Jailer. There are 6. I think there's 6 pieces.
There are 6 pieces.
Playground, and that will be the
week from Monday, the 19th.
Yeah, the 19th.
I think it's a 7 o'clock. When we're live, we usually do an 8 o'clock. I think because it's virtual, we're doing a 7 o'clock start time.
Yeah, so I'm very, very happy and excited for that. Also, let me push a couple of other things. Of course, everyone should check out Theater First's episode 1, Magic Fruit, Delano, and You Really Should Sit Like a Lady. I know it began yesterday, and I imagine people can just go on the website. We'll post the website on, but that's where people can buy a ticket and see the shows.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah,
Is that right, John?
Right now, up to this point, you've been able to buy a subscription for the entire season. And once you do, an episode happens, and then you can watch that episode anytime for the whole year. And they just kind of compound like that. Starting next week, we'll have individual tickets per episode for people to do. All that'll be sliding scale as well.
Right on. So we'll have the website, so you can click on the website to find out the details, and you've got to check it out. Also, a good friend of ours, Kari Moy, is in Aurora Theater. They're doing a play called The Flats. It's an audio drama. They're releasing 3 episodes 1 week apart beginning October the 23rd. And so once again, this Aurora is a theater company that's transitioning into streaming things via online. So that's a thing, and we'll post that up. So that will that's that. We've talked about Monday Night Playground. Also, another piece that I'm involved in, I've talked about it before, the Breck Project.
Oh, right.
The Private Lives of the Not-So-Master Race. So me and Scott Munson and Christine Oren and Shucks, I should remember the woman who there's another woman who has a piece in it. I can't figure it out right now. But in any case,
But we'll
yeah,
put a
so we
link.
yeah, exactly. We'll have a link, and it's basically we're interpreting pieces. Bertolt Brecht, a long time ago, wrote 29 one-act pieces, all called Fear and Misery in the Third Reich. And we're taking 5 of those pieces and we're reinterpreting it to talk about how life is in the Trump administration. My piece is called Judicial Process. Christine's piece is called The Informer. And we're all doing these interpretations, and that will be October the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th, and we will have a link to post that up. So that's something I'm very excited about. I thought I had something else. Hold on for just a second. Technology. Okay, I'm here. Joketoberfest. That's still going on. Plethos Productions. And so we'll click on that. That's just basically good old comedy. Sketches, stand-up material. They've got a whole plethora, a wealth of comics. So you can check that out.
They've been doing comedy stuff for a while. Yeah,
exactly. So that's every Friday, and we'll have the link to there. And that's it. That's all that I have. John, did you have a good time?
Yeah. Let me throw out just one other thing you guys said was all of Mime Troop's online content right now has been So checking, I know they've been doing these radio series for a while, and they're just finishing them up. So checking them out. And if I can plug one more thing is I feel like right now is the time when we can't meet each other in these stages to that friend of yours, and I have a few that sent you that play that they wrote and they asked you to read it.
Yeah.
Right now is the time to read it. Right
Amen.
now is to just is not only is it the chance to relate to stories, but it's also it's our job right now to just remind the artists around us that they still are artists, that they are still so vital to what we're doing. And these are those small ways where you can support them by I'm going to read it. I'm going to give you I'm going to have a talk with you about it. That's some of the theater we can be doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I'm one of those guys. I may be sending you a couple of plays, John, for Theater First. But it's interesting that you mentioned that because Jim Kleinman, we had a playground meeting yesterday. We have it every Friday, and he had a website that playwrights all over the United States can post their plays on. And I'm trying to find the link, and I can't find it. I will. Go ahead. Yes. New Play Exchange. And it's a wonderful, it's something that I'll post up, but it's a wonderful resource for individuals looking for plays and also for playwrights to sort of support ourselves and to amplify ourselves. I put up a couple of plays myself, and I have a profile up there, and it's a great way for your play to be picked up. And I put one play, I wrote a play, Foreman in Paris, and because I'm a Black guy and I'm writing about the civil rights movement, there were 2 companies, I think in Connecticut and another place, that said, hey, we're interested, submit your play and we'll take a look at it. And I'm like, hey, fantastic. So we will put that up. It's a great resource for budding playwrights. Any case, thank you so much, John. I know you've been under the weather, and you gave us an hour and a half of your time. So thank you.
It was a time worth spending with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So many of you may be looking at this on YouTube. We want to thank you so much. We want you to like and subscribe and tell us what you like about, what we're doing. And if there's something that you don't like, let us know. Hit that like, subscribe button and send in your comments. For those who are traditionally listening to us via our podcast, as always, you can listen to the Yay on the Apple Podcast app on all iPhones and iPads. You can also find the Yay on iTunes. Click on iTunes, click on Store, use the search engine on the upper right-hand side and search for the Yay, and you'll find us. If you're an Android user, you can download the SoundCloud app or just go on soundcloud.com and you'll find us. Really, any app that you listen to your podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on a bunch of others. There's always some sort of apps that are coming out that you can listen to podcasts. Type the Yay you'll find us. The Yay was created by theater people for theater people. If you have a show you want to advertise, or if you just want to advertise yourself, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. I'm at Reg Space Clay.
And I'm at Who's Your Hoosier.
John, do you do social media? Is there a place where people can reach out to you?
The old Facebook is fine, and I have my website if anybody wants to check me out at JonTracyPlays.com.
All right, and we'll put the link onto there as well. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. And as Norman and I always say,
we gotta find a better
sign off. And we are